The test of nerves. The firing range at the Galactic Allied Academy reeked of ozone and heated metal. Dozens of cadets stood in formation, their weapons slung across their chests, mandibles, beaks, and scaled jaws tight with anticipation. Every species present knew this day's lesson. The day Instructor Karveth tested their nerve. Karveth was a towering insectoid, his chitin glistening under the artificial lights, 4 eyes gleaming with cold scrutiny. He was infamous throughout the academy. To him, fear was the true enemy, and only those who could master it deserved to wear the Allied insignia. One by one, cadets stepped forward. The routine was always the same. Karveth would raise his weapon and fire a live round within a hair's breadth of their skulls. Some flinched so violently they nearly collapsed. Others broke into shouts or begged for him to stop. A few maintained composure but trembled afterward, their hands slick with fear sweat. Today, however, was different. Today, a human was among them. Elara Vance stepped forward when her name was called. She moved with deliberate calm, boots striking the deck in steady rhythm. Her auburn hair was tied back, her uniform crisp, her gaze locked forward. Whispers rippled among the other cadets. Human. She'll scream. They are reckless, not disciplined. Karveth ignored the murmurs. He had trained thousands. This was no different. He leveled his sidearm, antennae twitching. Cadet Vance, he said, his mandibles clicking. This is the test. Stand still. Elara's jaw tightened, but she gave a simple nod. The shot cracked like thunder. A streak of light seared past her right ear. The air so hot it burned the fine hairs along her cheek. The blast echoed through the chamber, and several cadets jerked back instinctively, claws or wings flaring in shock. Elara didn't flinch. She blinked once, steadying her breath, then turned her head slightly. Without hesitation, she extended her hand. Karveth, surprised, passed her the weapon as if compelled. She checked the chamber with quick, practiced motions. One by one, she popped the glowing cartridges free until the gun clicked hollow. Silence filled the range. Elara stepped forward, pressing the weapon back into Karveth's clawed hand. Her eyes, green, unblinking, met his multifaceted gaze. She spoke with quiet steel. Any questions? A tremor rippled through the formation. The reptilian cadet nearest her swallowed hard, scales quivering. A feathered avian tilted his head, whispering something sharp in his own tongue. Even Karveth's antennae froze. This had never happened before. Every species reacted to his test. Anger, fear, trembling pride. But not this. Not calm. Not this terrifying absence of reaction, as though death itself had brushed against her and she regarded it as nothing more than a breeze. Karveth slid the weapon back into its holster, his mandibles working silently for a moment before he managed words. Return to formation, cadet. Elara gave a curt nod and stepped back into line. The eyes of every cadet followed her, some wide with fear, others sharp with suspicion. As the next cadet was called forward, the range seemed colder, heavier. The test continued, but no one was watching Karveth anymore. They were watching the human. Elara Vance stood tall, shoulders square, expression unreadable. Inside, her heart was steady, not racing. To her, the shot was a test like any other, a problem to be solved, not feared. Panic was wasteful. Composure was survival. The Academy had just learned something it did not yet understand. Humans did not fear the way others did, and that terrified them far more than the gunshot ever could. The whispering fear. By the next day, the Academy buzzed with whispers. Cadets from every wing, dome, and barrack repeated the same story in hushed tones. The human hadn't flinched. In dining halls, in corridors, in the dormitories where species rarely mingled, the tale grew sharper with each retelling. She took his weapon. She unloaded it like she was handling a child's toy. She asked if we had questions. Every cadet had questions, but none dared ask Elara Vance directly. In the canteen, reptilian cadets hissed in low tones about predator reflexes. Their species, evolved from desert stalkers, recognized that steady stare. It is the look of one who knows how to kill. One muttered, claws scraping the table. Avian cadets, their feathers puffed in unease, insisted humans were unstable. They look soft, one whispered, but inside, they are storms barely contained. What kind of mind stands calm when death sings past its sea? The aquatic students, always logical, framed it differently. Their world must be violent beyond comprehension. Evolution carved them for hardship. Perhaps fear is not absent, but mutated into something else. Elara ignored it all. She ate in silence, studied in silence, and carried herself with the same steady discipline that had unnerved them on the firing range. But inside, she heard the whispers. She had expected suspicion, maybe hostility, but she hadn't realized how deeply fear could run. Even her squad mates, though she trained alongside, watched her differently now. Where once they saw her as fragile, the lone soft-skinned mammal among hardened chitin and scaled hides, now they looked at her as though she carried something dangerous beneath her skin. The only one who didn't whisper was Instructor Karveth. He watched. From the observation decks, from the corners of training rooms, his 4 eyes followed her. His test had been routine, predictable. For decades it had revealed which cadets could master themselves and which would break under pressure. But Elara hadn't followed the pattern. She had rewritten it, and Karveth hated patterns broken. That night, Elara sat in the dormitory's small window alcove, gazing at the stars beyond the Academy's shield dome. Earth was so far away it might as well have been myth. She remembered the forests of her childhood, the storms that tore across her hometown. She remembered the drills back home, how her father had said you don't wait for fear to pass. You act in spite of it. Humans panic too, she whispered to herself. We just don't let it stop us. She almost laughed. If her fellow cadets knew how often humans did feel fear, they might sleep easier. But no one here wanted the truth. They wanted the myth. The human who stayed down a gun and smirked. Her thoughts were interrupted by a shadow. Karveth stood in the doorway, mandibles clicking softly. Cadet Vance, walk with me. She rose without hesitation, falling into step beside him. The corridor lights reflected on his glossy carapace as they moved in silence. Finally, he spoke. You did not flinch. No, sir. Do you feel nothing? His tone carried neither accusation nor admiration, only calculation. I feel plenty, Elara said, keeping her gaze forward. But fear doesn't change what's in front of me. Acting does. Karveth's antennae twitched. Other species tremble, even the strong ones. He paused, searching for a word in standard. You unnerved them. They'll get used to it, Elara replied. Perhaps. Karveth's voice dropped lower. Or perhaps they will decide humans do not belong here. Elara stopped walking. She met his gaze with calm defiance. Then I'll prove I do. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Karveth chittered, a sound like stone grinding stone. He turned and left her in the corridor without another word. The next morning, drills began again. The squads formed on the field, plasma rifles charged, orders barked. Elara's squad mates kept their distance, stealing glances as though proximity itself was dangerous. And though no one spoke it aloud, the whispers followed her like shadows. Human, predator, dangerous. Elara stood at attention, jaw set. She had come here to represent her people, to learn, to show that humanity could be more than the galaxy believed. But as she felt the eyes of her peers boring into her back, she realized something chilling. It wasn't her skill they feared. It was her calm. And calm, in a galaxy where panic was universal, might just be the most terrifying weapon of all. The breaking point. The training field shimmered with the glow of holographic barriers, a contained war zone designed to test cadets in controlled combat. Simulated ruins jutted from the ground, smoke vents provided cover, and automated drones patrolled the perimeter. Elara stood with her assigned squad, 4 alien cadets who had spent the last week treating her like she was armed even when unarmed. Their eyes flicked toward her, wary. Karveth's voice boomed from the command deck above. Today's drill, urban sweep. Enemy drones. Non-lethal engagement protocols. Squad unity is paramount. The reptilian cadet, Zilvar, hissed low to his squad mates. Unity will not hold if she commands. He tilted his scaled chin toward Elara. Elara ignored it. She checked her rifle, ensuring the power cell was secure. Her heartbeat was steady, her breath measured. It didn't matter if they liked her. What mattered was the mission. Begin. The simulation came alive. Drones emerged, their plasma rifles flashing as they zipped between ruined walls. The squad scrambled into cover. At first, everything followed the standard drill. Cadets fired stuns, drones fell. But then, something changed. The next wave of drones' weapons didn't glow with harmless blue pulses. They sparked with searing red. When one struck the ground, the dirt exploded into molten shards. Zilvar hissed. That was lethal fire. Another drone strafed low, cutting into the wall that shielded them. Shards rained down. The avian cadet shrieked, wings flaring in panic. Simulation protocols are failing, shouted the aquatic cadet, flinching as a blast scorched the air. Panic rippled through the squad. One cadet bolted for open ground, only to be cut down in a blast that seared his armor. He screamed in pain, real pain. Cover him. Elara barked, springing from cover. She laid down precise bows, driving the drones back, and dragged the fallen cadet behind rubble. Her hands moved with brutal efficiency, checking his wounds, stabilizing him. The others froze. They weren't trained for this. Move! Elara's voice cut through the chaos like steel. If you stay here, you die. We flank left, tight formation. Now! For a heartbeat, no one obeyed. Then another drone strafed their position, showering them with fire. Instinct overcame doubt. They followed. Elara led from the front, weaving through cover, weapon steady. She didn't hesitate, didn't falter. Every movement screamed of someone who had faced real danger before. At a choke point, a drone descended on them, plasma blazing. Elara shoved the avian cadet aside and absorbed the glancing shot along her side. Her uniform scorched, skin seared, but she stayed on her feet, teeth gritted. The avian stayed at her in shock. You're hit. Keep moving. Elara snapped. Pain doesn't stop a fight. Hesitation does. They pushed forward under her command, leapfrogging cover, suppressing drones in bursts of coordinated fire. Slowly, impossibly, order replaced panic. The squad began to function. When they reached the final barricade, Elara vaulted onto it, drawing every drone's attention. She fired in measured bursts, shouting coordinates, directing crossfire until the last machine sparked and fell silent. The field went eerily quiet. Smoke drifted through the simulation ruins. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the aquatic cadet broke the silence, gills fluttering. We survived. Zilvar's golden eyes narrowed on Elara. He had mocked her only hours before, but now he stared with grudging recognition. Because of High. Elara lowered her weapon, wincing as the burn on her side throbbed. She didn't smile, didn't boast. She only scanned the field, confirming the drones were down. Above, on the command deck, Karveth watched with his mandibles clenched tight. This was no longer a test. The drones had truly malfunctioned, or someone had tampered with them. And yet, the human had not broken. Where every other cadet had faltered, she had thrived. Later, in the med bay, Elara sat on the edge of a cot while a medic patched her burn. Across the room, her squad mates whispered among themselves, not in fear this time, but something different. Respect. Uneasy, reluctant respect. The avian finally spoke aloud. Without you, we would be corpses. Elara's reply was calm, almost cold. Without you, I'd be alone. Remember that next time you hesitate. Silence followed. For the first time, they began to see her not as an unpredictable predator, but as a leader. And yet, in their eyes lingered a question none dared ask aloud. If this is what one human could do in a malfunctioning simulation, what would humanity do in a real war? Any questions? The council chamber of the Galactic Allied Academy was built for intimidation. Its vaulted ceilings arched high above, its walls lined with banners from dozens of civilizations. The central platform glowed with harsh white light, and seated above it were the instructors and overseers who ruled the cadet corps. Elara stood at the center, her uniform still scorched from the simulation, a bandage wrapped tight across her ribs. Around her, The murmurs of alien cadets swirled like wind through hollow stone. The malfunctioning drones had been no minor incident. The Academy prided itself on control. Simulations did not accidentally switch to lethal protocols. Some suspected sabotage. Others whispered darker things. That Instructor Karveth had arranged it, hoping to break the human cadet. Whatever the truth, one fact remained. She had led her squad through it, and they had survived. Karveth himself stood among the instructors, his full eyes fixed on Elara. His mandibles clicked softly, but he said nothing. Cadet Vance, intoned a counselor, a crystalline being whose voice resonated like chimes. Your actions during the simulation prevented significant casualties. Yet concerns have been raised. Your methods, your calm under lethal fire, these unsettle your peers. A rustle of agreement filled the chamber. The avian counselor flared his wings. Fear is natural. It governs survival. When a species does not react as expected, it is dangerous. Unpredictable. Elara lifted her chin. With respect, Counselor, panic doesn't stop death. Action does. The words hung heavy in the chamber. The aquatic representative's gills pulsed. And if your action threatens others, if humanity acts without fear, what then? Do you not see why you are feared? Elara's green eyes swept across the chamber. She saw her squad mates seated to the side, Zilvar with arms crossed, the avian cadet leaning forward, the aquatic cadet's gaze lowered. They had followed her. They had lived because of her. She took a breath. Fear isn't absent in us. It's there. We just don't let it rule us. On Earth, storms flatten cities, quakes swallow homes, predators stalk the dark. If we froze every time death brushed near, we wouldn't exist. We act because we're afraid, not in spite of it. That's the difference. The chamber fell silent. Even the banners seemed to still. Karveth finally stepped forward, his claws clicking against the floor. I fired a shot past this human's ear, as I have with countless cadets. She did not tremble. She disarmed me, and when I thought to break her, she broke the lesson instead. His mandibles ground together. I misjudged. She is not fearless. She is disciplined. The admission shocked many. Instructors rarely confessed error. Elara inclined her head. Then perhaps you understand. Instructor, humans aren't reckless. We prepare. We endure. And when the time comes, we don't waste it screaming. Karveth studied her for a long moment, then turned to the council. The galaxy will face wars where panic means extinction. If you want soldiers who will act, even when death whispers in their ear, then perhaps it is not the human who should be on trial here. The counselors exchanged murmurs, crystalline tones and guttural clicks blending uneasily. Finally, the chime-voiced elder spoke again. Very well. Cadet Vance will remain. But be warned, human. The line between respect and fear is thin. Step wrongly, and even allies will turn on you. Elara gave a simple nod. Understood. The next day, on the firing range, the cadets assembled once more. Karveth resumed his old ritual, his sidearm gleaming under the lights. He called forth a nervous young avian. The shot cracked past the cadet's head, and as always, they flinched. But this time, silence followed. Not laughter, not whispers. Every gaze drifted to Elara. She stood at ease, rifle slung at her side, expression calm. She waited until the chamber fell utterly quiet. Then she stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. Any questions? No one spoke. Not the cadets, not the instructors, not even Karveth. For the first time in the Academy's long history, the test had been inverted. And in that silence, the galaxy realized something it had always feared but never named. Humanity's strength was not its muscle, nor its weapons, nor even its stubborn survival. It was the terrifying calm in the face of chaos.